Okay, welcome to Unraveled Game Thoughts. After a very long hiatus, here I am with Age of Comics, The Golden Years. And thank you to Board Game Revolution and whoever sponsored the competition that it's not really a competition. I entered a drawing and my name was drawn out of a hat, and I won a copy of Age of Comics, The Golden Years. So this is the collector's edition. I'm honestly not 100% sure. I think the difference in the collector's edition is really all the expansions came with it. So there's like a group of comics that are called like Army Comics, and you can sub them out for one of the other base comics. But I'm not playing with that in this edition, and I don't believe maybe the solo mode. I don't know if the solo mode is included in the base game. That might be an add-on, but for the most part, I think this is generally largely base game. And I'm going to show you how to play the game. I am using the solo mode. I think it kind of represents what turns do, but as the player playing against the Atoma, I'm going to be doing actions just like a normal player would do. So you'll get a good feel for the game, even if you're playing multiplayer and not solo. So let me start by talking about the different components, and then we'll get into what the actions do, and then I will start playing the game, at least for a couple of rounds. I may not play a full game, but at least you'll kind of see after a couple of rounds what it looks like. So, we'll start up here. We have idea tokens in this top left corner. I might have to take my screen down, but this is an example of one idea token for a undead comic. And we have on the back, you can see this picture. These are the rip-off comics, and so they're not shuffled or anything. They're just kind of in a pile, because whenever you get one, you'll see that you get whichever you want. We have mastery tokens. There's one of each of the genres we're playing with. So whenever you have the first original of a particular genre, or you end up getting the most of a particular genre, a comic, and you have at least one original, then you can take a mastery token. We've got coins in denominations of 1, 2, 5, and 10. We have some victory point tokens in 3, 2, and 1 denominations. There is a single sales token for the Atoma. I took it off the board because the Atoma never takes the bonus actions and doesn't really move its sales token around. It just does stuff to the sales to steal sales. We have fan tokens. So there's a special action in the game. If you hype your comics, then you can put fan tokens on them. And we have some extra color tokens. So if you're making your color, one of the bonus actions is getting some extra color on your comic. And then there are some increase your creatives value. Creatives involve the writer and the artist that make up a comic when you print it. And so they're called creatives in the rule book. It took me a couple of rereads of a sentence to figure out what that was. Okay, and then over here on the left, I think it's still kind of on the screen, there's a whole bunch, and this is just representative of one of these tiny comic book sort of icons, and they represent the comic books that you can build from the original. So there's a stack of originals over here that we're going to be drawing from, and these each represent. Now they have some info on the back, and I'm not sure what that means. I don't remember running across that in the rules. That might be a special rules kind of deal, but they all say the same thing. So I don't know what that means, but I'm just using the front. They're going to be used to track how many fans our comic books have, and also how much money we'll get when we collect money during the rounds. I've got a player aid here, and it's pretty good. I mean, once you know the base rules of the game, the player aid will kind of get you through the game, for the most part, and help you with scoring at the end of the game. So that's pretty nice. We have the main board here. This is where our comic how many fans we have is tracked. Our turn order, we have 3 actions here, 1 action kind of here, and then we have the royalties and sales actions down here. It just occurred to me that there are spots here as if, I think in theory, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take these and put them on the board like. Okay, so let's talk a little bit of what I have starting wise. I get to start with 2 idea tokens, any 2 that I choose. I get to start with I get one artist and 1 writer that I just randomly drew a number 2 artist and a number 2 writer. And I got 1 original comic of any type. So I got to pick the type, and then I just grabbed it from the deck of cards. And I'm also going to lay out, and then you're not going to be able to see this on screen because honestly my computer is going to be hovering over the comic. But basically I'm going to set out 3 original comics. I'm going to set out 3 writers and 3 artists. And whenever I choose to get these, I can either pick from the ones that are face up, the 3 that are face up, which is what you do for a 2-player or a solo game, or I can blind draw off the top. Now, for the original comics, if I blind draw off the top, I'll be able to see what kind of comic it is. I just won't see which original, which really won't matter. Honestly, it'll be the genre that I'm really concerned about anyway. So you almost have 4 selections with the original comics. When you're drawing for the artist or the writer, the only thing you know is the value, which will be the number on the back, and I'll explain what that gets into here in a second. But other than the value, you won't know the genre that artist or writer is associated with. So you're kind of blind doing that, but if you don't like what's on the display, that might be a good option. Okay, let's jump in here. Oh, the Automa also gets to start with the same number 2, and I can't remember if I gave the Automa his first, but I did select, because when you are drawing from the deck, you get to pick whichever genre you want of the starting comic book card you're going to do, and the Automa goes first. So technically I would choose first, but I think strategically it doesn't hurt to draw the same one as somebody else, because then you can at least do 1 ripoff. So that being said, let's jump into what the actions are and the board. I already said this is for tracking your fans. This is for tracking turn order up here. Automa always goes first, so I have him going first. Now technically he doesn't have a turn order block, but I put it on there just to remind me that he goes first every round. And then every time we turn over, we have 5 rounds, and we turn over one of these, we're going to turn over all the sales tokens that have a matching icon of the genre that is flipped for that round. So then these don't have to be flipped in order to be taken. They're already flipped, so if you get next to them, you can just take them. First action here is we have as a hire action. All these actions are the same. You only use this one if you're playing with 3 players, and you only use that one if you're playing with 4. And there's no difference in the action. When you put your action figure, your editor there, you're going to hire 1 writer and 1 artist. And you're going to pick from the display or blind draw from the top of the deck, and as soon as you pick, then you refill. That's it. If you have the bonus unlocked, so I'll explain how that's unlocked later, but if you had that unlocked, then you would get to swap artists and writers from your hand, or from what you just drew, or from your hand, or in your display, you can swap artist and writer. So basically, you can kind of one writer and one artist. You can swap one writer and one artist, and you can inadvertently, or maybe not inadvertently, vertently, because you're doing it on purpose, make your writers and artists more aligned with the genre that's printed of the comic book. That can help you score points at the end of the game. The next action is the develop action, and again, there's no going first here doesn't change anything. You get to pick one comic from the display. Now, if you've unlocked this action, then you can do what's called hyping, and that's where these tokens come in. If you are able to hype a comic, then when you draw it, if you have your action token there for the bonus, then when you draw your comic, you can take that comic or another one you already have in your hand and you place it down, and nothing would happen right away, but everyone would see this is the comic you're going to hype. So normally your hand is hidden, everybody will see that comic, but you're going to hype it. So you're going to end up putting one of these hype tokens at the end of the round or beginning of the next round. I forget which it actually is. Oh, you add hype at the beginning of the next round. You're going to add hype tokens, and if you every round you basically leave this on the table, you'll be adding more hype tokens. So that's a way to increase your fan base before you even print the comic. The next action is the ideas action. Now this is where the actions start actually becoming more powerful if you're the first to go there. So if you're the first to go, you're going to get to pick any two of these tokens and then any two tokens you want from the supply. These tokens will not refill until the next round. The tokens in the supply are just, they're all there. They're technically unlimited, I believe. So but if you're first there, you get 2 here and 2 there. If you're the second or third person, you get 1 from here and 2 from the supply. And then once you get down to 3 and 4 player games, it's 0 from here and 2 from the supply. So it's kind of an interesting setup there. I'm not really sure why they did it that way, but it makes it easier to get what you need for sure. If you happen to have this action unlocked, then after you've taken your idea tokens, you can turn in any up to 3 ideas, and you can boost any of your comics. One comic 3 times, or 3 different comics 1, or 2 in 1, whatever you want. And I don't think the genre has to match the comic. I could not find anything on that, either in the rulebook or online, but as far as I can tell, you just discard whatever idea you want, and you can boost whatever comic you want regardless of genre. So this next one does have a bonus in the first action. All the rest are the same, but the first one is to print a comic. And there are 2 kinds of comics you can print. You can print an original, or you can print a knockoff. If you print an original, it's going to cost you 2 ideas that match the original, and it's going to cost you money that's going to be a combination of your 2 creatives. So if I use this writer 2 and this artist 2, then the value of my comic is going to be 4, because I'll have 2 and 2, so that'll be a 4 value. I would pay the 2 ideas and 4 money to the bank, and I would print whatever comic that I'm printing. So if it was this one, then I would be putting it on my board something like this is how that would look. And that would print that original comic. And then I have to determine how many fans am I going to get. So if I have so this comic, any original comic always gives you a fan to start with. And then I have a matching green artist here, so that's going to give me 2 fans. And if I had anything else, like if I was my first comic printed, I would also get the mastery token for the space comics, and that's going to give me a 3rd fan. So I'd start with 3 fans on this one right out of the gate. I don't think there's anything else. I didn't hype it, so I wouldn't get fans that way. And the only other way to get fans, I believe, is sales tokens. So that is going to be where I'm starting with fans. Now, if I had a sales token, then that sales token, if I fulfilled the sale, which I'll explain in a minute, then I might get more fans that way too. But for now, probably 3 fans to start. Now, if this writer also matched, that would be a 4th fan. But this one doesn't. And then there's another bonus up here. I'll explain the bonuses in once I get done with the actions. But that's generally printing one of those. Now, if you're printing a ripoff, it's a little bit easier. You're still going to pay the value of both writer and artist, the creatives, and then you're going to find the ripoff. And the catch is you can't print a ripoff until someone else has printed a comic that you can rip off. And that does have to be someone else. You can't rip off your own comic. You can only rip off somebody else's comics. So in this case, in a solo, I have to wait till the Automa prints a comic, and then I could rip off the Automa's comic. If the Automa sees I've printed, it's going to try to rip off my prints if it can't print an original itself. But it's also going to do a little bit of trying to copy me as well in order to try to match my mastery tokens and take them away from me potentially. If I have the bonus, then whenever I print, I also get to take one of these color tokens and put it on that comic, and that's just going to be an extra 2 victory points at the end of the game. The other factor is if you're the very first person to print, you could print up to 2. Could be 2 originals, could be an original and a ripoff, could be 2 ripoffs, but you could print 2 comics. You do have to have all the requisite resources in order to pay for those 2 comics. It's fairly hard to do. Part of that is because your hand size is 6. You can never have more than 6. So to print 2 originals, you have enough room for a writer and an art, like 2 writers, 2 artists, and 2 originals. But you're not going to be able to have 3 writers and 3 artists and a lot to choose from as far as that, and also have comic books in your hand that or what do you call it? When you developed an idea, those are in your hand and take up space as well. So something to bear in mind. Okay, this next action definitely gets worse. First player will get $4. Second player and third player get 3. If you're the fourth player, you're going to get 2. And in a 4-player game, you have a $1 space open. So basically, this is how you can get money. You go here. If you're the first winner, you get $4. So easy way to get money. If you have this unlocked at the bottom, what can happen is you're allowed to pay money to get fans. $2 for 1 fan, $5 for 2 fans, or $9 for 4 fans. So if you have the money, then you can do that. Over here, we have the sales action, and this is probably the most complicated action in the game. It's not that complicated, but it's a little more complicated. So there's several parts to this. So if you go to the sales action, first you're going to decide, well, I shouldn't say this. You can move as much as you want, as long as you can pay for it. Your first move is free. If you have one of these tickets that you can get as a bonus from some of the original comic cards, then you can, one of your moves could be just moving to any circle that you want on the board. And there's all these little circles kind of between the different sales tokens. And those are where you're going to move to. You start in the center, which is not really anything. There's no circle there. But you always move to a circle, and that's one move. So always get a free move. And then every move after that is $2, and you can do it as much as you want. What you're trying to move to is either get the sales tokens that you want, or to get the sales tokens that you could immediately fulfill. And I'll use the red ones because they're exposed, the love comics. If you come to a spot, then you can choose to flip a tile. I can say, well, I think I'm going to go for a superhero later. I'm going to flip this tile. I'm not going to flip it yet, but if I flip it, then that's one flip. I get up to 3 flips in any given sales action. And then when I get to another place, I could say, well, I'm definitely going to print a love comic. I'm going to grab both of these, and I can take up to 3 flipped tiles. I can't take tiles that are not flipped. I can only take flipped tiles, so if I want them myself, I might have to flip them, but if they were flipped by the round, maybe I'll be fortunate enough and I can grab some previously flipped tiles, or maybe somebody else flipped a tile and decided they didn't want it. Why would you not want flipped tiles? Generally, a comic like something like the threes or the fours, those are pretty easy to meet. And what that means is the value of your comic. So if you remember earlier, I said the value of your comic is your writer value plus your artist value. If that, whenever that meets for that genre and your main comic is that genre, you will fulfill that sale either immediately as soon as you get it. So if I had this printed on my board, if I had a love of value 3 at least on my board, and then as soon as I pick this up, I fulfill it, and that comic is going to get one fan. It's going to go up on this chart over here, one space. If I don't have it right away, it's going to sit there. And some of these you can see, I mean, this one's worth 4 fans, but it's 6 value. So if I created a comic that was value 3, then I would have to get that comic up to value 6 in order to fulfill the sale and get 4 fans. And that's going to take money and probably time too to do that. And I'll explain how you can do that here in a second. Because once you've played it on your board, there's really only one way to increase its value at that point. So that's how you can get fans and fulfill those. Any of these that are in your player area and unfulfilled will be negative points based on the number of fans. So it's plus 4 fans if you fulfill it, but it's minus 4 points at the end of the game if you don't fulfill it. So that's why somebody might flip a tile they think they want. They might decide, that one's going to be really hard to get. I'm going to leave that on the board. I don't want to mess with it. So that's the sales action. The Automa does not get a sales token. He doesn't really move around to get to a place. I can only flip or take tokens that are touching the circle that I'm on. And the Automa does not have that same issue. The Automa just kind of like, he just flips whatever is based on his priority, and then he takes whatever is based on the comics. He's trying to take the comics that I would normally go for sales tokens for. So there's a little bit of competition for getting to him and trying to pick him up before he gets to him. Okay, so that's that. How do you increase your comic book? Well, one of the things at the end of, it's during each round, you're going to flip the comic book, flip the calendar tile. You're going to flip all these sales tiles that are familiar. You're going to refill the ideas tokens on the board. You're going to add hype if you have a comic in development. And you're going to pay money to increase creative's value. So what happens is, let's say that I have built this comic earlier in the game, and it is on my board. When I get to this section, every player gets the same option. I can increase the value of any creative that matches my comic. Now, if it doesn't, like this orange does not match the green space comic, I can't increase that value. But I can increase the value of the artist. And in this case, if I wanted to go from value 2 to value 3, then I would pay 3 money to the bank, and that's where these tokens come in, and I would put one over the 2, so now it's value 3. Value 3 is the highest you can go. Value 6 comic is the most you can get for a comic. So that's how you increase those. Now, one of the caveats, to get from 2 to 3, I'd have to pay 3. One of the caveats is if they're both the same, the writer and the artist are both the same color, then it's like one of them is helping train the other. So if I had a 3 writer and a 2 artist, and I wanted to go up to a 3 artist, then I would only pay 1 because the writer of the same color is kind of tutoring this guy. If I was going from, say, this was a 2 and the writer was a 1, I could pay 1 to increase the writer up to the 2. What would happen then if they were both 2 and I wanted to increase them both is I'd have to pay 6 at that point to get them both up to the next level, because they're both equal in training, and so to get to the next level in that case you have to pay 6. Or I could pick one and pay 3, and then the next turn just pay 1 to get that last one up to 3. I hope that made sense. it's a little, it probably sounds a little trickier than it really is. It's not too bad. That is pretty much all the things. The last thing here are bonuses, and I'm not sure how many I have available. Technically, I think this is an expansion, and there is a little icon up in the corner. I don't know how easy it is to see. It's probably not very, it looks like 3 cards, and then it says plus, and it's got the same color card. And what that means is if I have the same genre, say I have a green space writer, a green artist, a spaceship artist, and I have a green spaceship comic, and that's already on my board, I can, without using another writer or artist, I can just pay those artists and just put it on top of my board. So it's like 2 comics are in one spot. It's not going to help me for unlocking tokens and getting some of these bonuses across the top of the board, but what it will do is it means I have 2 comics printed, and that's worth more victory points at the end of the game. So the more comics you get printed, generally the more victory points you'll get to one degree or another. These bonuses that I talked about unlocking, you unlock them. The first one you unlock when you've printed your second comic, and then you'll get to put it in one of these top 3 action spaces. You pick which one you want the bonus from. When you get your third comic, you're going to unlock the second one, and you can either pick one of these 3, or you can put it in this one, so that when you print, you can get the color. And when you unlock your fourth one, then you have the option of any of these you haven't already selected, plus the royalties or the sales down at the bottom. The sales one is a little bit weird. I didn't talk about that earlier, but when you take the sales action, if you have unlocked this, then you get an extra editor for just that round. So it's almost like taking the sales action doesn't take one of your workers. That's what that does for you. When you print your 5th comic, you are going to get to move any of your bonus cubes from one place to another place that you don't have a cube. You can't have more than 1 cube on a place. And then if you get 6 comic printed, then every comic, your 6th and everyone after it, is going to get an extra 2 bonus points. At the end of the game, if you've printed 5, all your originals are going to get 1 extra bonus point. And originals by themselves, if I'm not mistaken, are already worth a number of victory points. Yeah, it's either 2, 4, or 6 victory points for originals anyway. And then this will give you an extra bonus point if you unlock based on the 5th comic. So that's kind of the general structure there. Some of the other bonuses that you can get, let's look at these. Actually, I'll just reshuffle these. So some of them will give you +1 fan. These will give you, that'll give you 2 coins. This one will give you any 2 idea tokens of your choice. This one will give you one of these travel tickets. I think that's the only way to get those travel tickets. And I've already explained the one where you get to play a comic in the same spot. So that is all of those things. So let's go ahead and start. Now, Automa goes first, and the way Automa works, he already has his board set up with his 4 editors right here. And I will technically just play medium. So anytime he prints a comic, he's going to get 3 fans, or 3 fans plus the round if it's an original. So he wants to hire. That's his first action. There are no comics on the board to indicate what he would hire. So I'm just going to set his stuff up over here. So he's going to want to hire something that kind of helps him. And he generally wants to hire the same color. So he's going to take the writer, and he's going to take the artist, and this is a dual artist. Now, I didn't go over these, but this is kind of an expansion card, and this can basically give you fans for either a undead or a spaceship type art. So it's actually a really good one. I probably would have grabbed it if he didn't, but he grabbed it, so alas, I'm not going to get to take that. And now it is my turn. That's a whole turn. I mean, he took an action and he is done. Doesn't have any bonus there, and he won't because the automa never gets a bonus. If he couldn't have done the higher because his hand was full, or he already had combination of 4 writers and artists, he would have gone to develop and tried that. And if he couldn't do that, he would go to ideas. So that's kind of his order of operations when he does stuff. Okay, so then it's my turn. Now I could print, and you always have to take that top action on the board. And hey, you sneaking out?
I put the door up for the cat.
Oh, gotcha.
Fed him, so.
And now you're trapped. It's all good.
Sorry.
This is what editing's for.
Okay. Sorry.
So let me see. Yeah. So yes. So if whenever you take an action, you always have to take the topmost action first. You can't pick a different one, and it's not one of those games where it's like, oh, I can't print 2, so I have to go to the second one. If you're the first one to print, you take that action regardless. So I'm gonna need idea tokens to print. I saw him grab the green and purple writer, and I could see his hand that he has a green writer. So there's a chance I might be doing a ripoff, but I'm not 100% sure what all I want to do. But getting idea tokens is very helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and take one of these. And since I have a boot, I will take a boot. And I'm going to go ahead and get a couple of idea tokens. I see 2 gun comics out there. There's a good chance I'll be able to grab a gun comic. So I'm going to grab 2 idea tokens from over there. And then he's going to take his second action. I don't have a bonus. So the first thing he wants to do is develop. So if he goes here, there's no reason he can't develop. I haven't done anything. He could probably see that I have a space card. So he's probably just going to go by his priority on his, and he has artist cards in his hand to match. So he's going to take this purple original because it just makes sense to do that for him. And then that's going to come out there. All right, so we've got a couple of guns, and let's see what we got. I think sometimes these more powerful actions are good. $4 is awfully good, so I like that. But he is probably going to eventually steal some sales, and I would like to be able to get my tokens, my sales tokens. So I think what I'm going to do is go to the sales action and take that one while I can. I'm just going to take my freebie to go there, and I can flip up to 3 tiles. So I will flip 1. I can't take that tile because it only operates when I have something on the board. So all I can do is flip that one. Unfortunately, it's not going to do anything for me. I'm going to flip this one. So now I flipped 2. I am actually going to take that one. So I've taken 1. And now the question is, do I want to go even further? I've only taken 1. I think I'm actually going to pay $2. So I'll get 3 back here, and I'm going to move up to here. I have flipped 2 tiles. I'm going to flip this one for a 3rd. I'm going to take it, and now I can't take this tile. You're not allowed to take that tile unless you actually can fulfill it right away. And so the way that works is you're going to get the number of fans equal to the calendar round you're in for whatever comic. So if I took it, I'd have to be able to use it. And since I don't have a comic printed, it can't be used. So that is unfortunate. It's a really good tile, though, especially by the 3rd and 4th round. It's a great way to get some good fans. Okay, so now this guy Automa is going to go. Let's see what he comes away with. I'm going to go ahead and take his, he doesn't use those, so I'll take those off. So, would he develop? So his first action is develop. Well, he's not going to develop. He's got a handful of 6, so he's not going to do that. But he could do sales. Now, I don't have anything on the board for him to take. So he's probably going to skip sales because he looks for something that I have. And I have nothing so far. So he's going to skip that, and he wants to hire. Well, hiring isn't going to be particularly great for him. So he can't hire because he's got 6 folks in his hand. So he's in one of these rare situations where the only action he can actually do is sales. So he will take a sales action, and probably because he sees that I have a space card, he is going to flip all the space cards, and that's it. And he is going to take 2 to 3 up to some value. I want to say 8-ish, but I'm just going to say he's going to take those 2 from me, and they just kind of go off the board. He doesn't get anything for them. He would actually get to increase his comic 1 each. For taking 2 tiles, he would increase his highest comic by 2 fans. But he doesn't have any comics, so he's kind of losing out on the action. All right, so that was the sales action. He went there. Now it's my turn. All right. One of the downsides, going first can have its upside, but I won't get to go first because the Automa always goes first in the game. The upside for me is I have the potential of taking bonus actions should I get enough stuff to do so. And right now, I don't have enough money really to make a comic, so I'm going to get some money and just get $4 there. I think that's going to be my best play. And then we'll come over here and turn his over, and he wants to hire. He can't do that. Develop, he can't do that. Print, he can do that. He can print. Now, I don't know that he prints 2. Let me see if he can take the bonus of printing 2. He does print 1. Or a mastery token. Difficulty level, ripping off fans. It has 2. It prints. Oh, it could. It could print 2 comics. It has nothing to rip off because I don't have any, but he can print 2 comics, and he is going to. So he's going to get his artist and writer here, and I'm playing the middle, so he just gets 3 fans. He doesn't care about colors, but he is building alien worlds, and so I just have to find alien worlds, and he's going to start with 3 fans there. And because he took that first spot, he actually gets to print 2 comics, and he is also printing It Lives. So we go through the original comics here, and we're going to find It Lives, and that also is going to go on 3. Okay, so he's printed 2, and now it's my turn for the last turn of the round. Now, I have a choice. I probably want to print a comic, but I can also rip off his comic. He is going to get the mastery token for that and for the purple comic. So I might be better off printing a ripoff than doing something more significant. But I'm also kind of looking up at those the stuff available and trying to decide if I want to get some other items before taking anything. Like Killer Dames, man, that would give me 1. This one I can print a second comic on top of another creative, so that might be not a bad one to save. I do like the fact that this artist is 1. I could get another something that I could do for a ripoff and only have to pay $4. But printing a comic is also pretty nice and can get you started in the game. So I hate to waste this bonus, but I'm wondering if printing a comic is going to be a better option for me, because I can fill both of these orders because I need 4 fans, and that's going to give me a lot of fans to start out with and a token. So I think I am going to do the print a comic action. And so I've got my artist and my writer, an orange artist and a green writer. So we're going to print that, and that's going to cost me 2 alien idea tokens. Again, the Automa didn't have to pay those because he doesn't have to. This is a value 4, so I have to pay $4. So put that 5 back and get a 1. And now I do my fans. So I get 1 fan for the original. I get 1 fan for having an artist that matches the genre, so that's 2 fans. And it's a value 4, so I am going to get 3, 4, 5 total fans for fulfilling these orders, because I needed value 4 and value 3, and I have both of those. So that allows me to print Space Unknown with 4 fans. So I will do that, and it gives me a little bit of an edge. All right, so that is the end of that round. We've taken actions, and now we establish ranking and award VP. Well, I have the highest ranked comic, so I get a 3 VP token, and he has the second highest, so he gets a 2 VP token. And these mastery tokens, the reason I might want to steal them is they're worth 2 at the end of the game. They also will give more fans to the comics I make if I have that mastery token or steal it, so that's also helpful. All right, that is that. So then we earn money. Well, I earn $3 because that's where my comic is. He does not earn money. Automa doesn't do the money thing. Then we remove 1 fan from each comic book on the chart. Now, it's important to note also that fans can never drop below 1. The caveat is, while they can't drop below 1, your ripoffs can start on 0. That is a possibility, because if you don't have matching creatives and you are printing a ripoff, the ripoff doesn't innately start with a point. So you could just start on 0, but once you go up to 1 at least, you never drop below it. Okay, let's see, where are we at? Remove 1 fan, and we're going to remove the editors from the board. So we will take these off and put them back over here on his board, and I'll grab my editors, and we'll do that. And then we discard the cards and refill the table. So this is where, at least for the solo, I'm going to discard these, and they can go there. And then for the board, I take all the cards that are in the display, I put them down, and then I turn over 3 new cards. And I would do that for each of these different sections up here. Now I'm just going to do the second one, and then I'm going to move on to the next round and show you how to start the next round. But I am going to probably pause there, because that gives you the general flow of the game. I don't think there's a whole lot more besides the bonus actions, which I might do a little extension and record that later, doing some of those bonus actions. I'll finish this game out, but I might record that later so that you can, if you want to watch another video, I'll put the bonus actions in there and post that at a later date. But let's see, where was I? Starting a new round, we're going to flip the calendar tile, and that revealed the superhero icon. So we're going to then flip all the superheroes over here on the sales action. And then so, and the way these icons work are, if so if I get one of those, I have to have an icon that matches one of the revealed calendars. So I'd have to have a love comic or a superhero comic in order to fulfill one of those, and then I would get the round value. So if I built a superhero comic and then this round also got one of those, it would increase me 2 fans. Later on, it might give me more to get those, but Space on or like Aliens hasn't been revealed, so that means Aliens is out here. So getting these, if Aliens is like number 5, getting one of these in round 5 is going to be fantastic because it'll give me a ton of 5 fans for my Alien comic by the round 5. So let's see, we've done that. We refill the idea tokens, so that's where you'll just pop those guys in there, and that will repopulate those for the next round. And then we pay money to increase creative value. We would add hype to comics if we had any that could be hyped, and we pay money to increase the creative's value. So this is where I could increase the value of this. Now there's no more space ones on the board, so there's no reason for me to increase that value. At some point in the game, if I find a way to turn that into a green, to trade it with something else, that might be worth doing. But increasing the value of the green one isn't going to help me get a sale at this point in the game. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not even going to try to do that, and it would cost me money that is a precious resource right now. All right, so yeah, he would go first. The first thing what he's going to do is, for a solo game, he's just going to draw a new card for each of these 4 action spaces he has on his board. And that is pretty much going to cover it for an entire round, and then the setup for the next round. The only difference, once we get to the end of round 2 for the solo, we're going to reshuffle all of his cards together, and he's going to draw new cards. That happens at round 2 and round 4, and then that's the only difference really between rounds for him, because he doesn't get these other bonuses from these tokens here. And that is it. At the end of the game, the way scoring works is you're going to score fans at the end of round 5 minus the fans of unfulfilled orders. So you count your fans. That's going to be victory points depending on like every comic book you have and all the fans for them added up, minus whatever sales you didn't fulfill. Then you're going to get any accumulated VP. So if you got any of these, if you got these color tokens, or if you got mastery tokens, those are going to be worth victory points for you. Every $4 is a victory point. Every 4 idea tokens you have that you haven't spent is going to be a victory point. And then every original you have, just originals, not the rip-offs, are going to be 2, 4, or 6 points, depending on the number of matching creatives you have. So one matching creative will be 4 points, 2 matching creatives will be 6 points, no matching creatives is 2 points. And then if you happen to print 5 comics, you would get an extra point for each original. That's Age of Comics. I'm going to be honest, I was not expecting much from this game when I was first alerted that I had won a copy. It wasn't something that I noted it, I'd seen it, but I just kind of felt like it looked like looks like a pretty basic worker placement game. But I did a 2-handed run through, and then now I've kind of started playing the solo, and I'm looking forward to playing this with others, partly because the market value, there's a little bit of a market manipulation thing with the comics here, and the tension between, do I print an original, do I rip off comics, how do I balance that, how do I balance like taking these actions that are a little bit more powerful versus actions that are not quite as powerful, and maybe moving forward with what I'm trying to do on my board as opposed to trying to just take advantage of the most powerful actions or something. There's a lot of value to unlocking these actions early so that you get more bonus actions. And I think in a multiplayer game, there could be some good tension with that. It seems like the sales area could be a pretty ripe place to go get sales. I can see there being some strategy, and you know what? I'm going to go hard and fast after sales. I'm just going to collect as many as I can, and I'm going to worry about making comics later, and I'll just make them as fast as I can, and then try to get those sales fulfilled to get fans, because at the end of the game, fans are going to be a lot of your base points that you get. One thing that is important to know, to get these mastery tokens, you have to at least have one original of the genre. You don't get the mastery token if you print 2 ripoffs of a particular genre. You have to have the original as well. So something to bear in mind, and definitely adds to some of the strategic nature of the game. But the comic books and the idea and the theme is kind of cool. I would say it's a pretty creative theme as games go. It's not just your standard science fiction, fantasy, worker placement. And not to say that those are all bad. I think there are plenty of those that are fun. I have Anachrony. I think it's great. I love it as a worker placement game. I've got Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven's not a worker placement game, so I don't know if that's a good example. But I've got a couple that probably fall into that typical trope genre. But this one I think is a little bit outside the box thematically than some of the others I've seen of late. So thanks for joining Unraveled Game Thoughts for a little run through of the rules after a fairly long hiatus. And like and subscribe if you get a chance. Give any feedback if you've played the game, if you're looking forward to playing this game, if you back this game and you just can't wait for it to arrive and it hasn't gotten to you yet. Any of that, let me know what you think about the strategy. If you have gotten to play this multiplayer, I'd love to hear some thoughts on, like, what kind of strategy tensions did you see in the game? Or even if you're like, maybe you played this a few times and you're like, you know what? It got real old and boring real fast because the strategy kind of died out after a couple of plays. I'd love to hear that too. It's just good to know what works for folks and what they found as they played the game more. If you would like to see the finished side, there's a good chance I'll post it on my Patreon page, but I'll put that link in the description. But if I do that, I will not require people to. You don't have to be a Patreon. I'll just put it in there for public to see. But it will, then you get to my Patreon page because I have 0 Patreons. So I'd love to be able to produce more of this content more frequently. And I'd love to upgrade some of my lighting and some of those things. But right now, this is just... I do this in my spare time when I can. I really love doing it. I enjoy it. But also have lots of other responsibilities and a day job I have to attend to. So, sometimes you get on hiatus like this where it's a month or so before I can actually get something to the table. Thank you for joining me. Have a great evening.